Okay, folks, we're going to go ahead and start. Thanks, everybody, so much for joining us today for our second episode in the latest season of This is CDR. This is our kind of a flagship program or project of OpenAir. I believe we're at episode 104, where generally every Tuesday at this time, we get together with either a leading CDR innovator or subject expert to talk about specific CDR approaches, projects, businesses, or subjects of interest. So very, very pleased today to be hosting one of OpenAir's own native projects or missions, the Carbon Removal Challenge, which you'll hear about in just a moment when I introduce everybody. But while I do that, I'm going to go ahead and give you just a little bit of background on This is CDR before we get into the program. So This is CDR, as I mentioned, is a project or a program of OpenAir. OpenAir founded about 6 years ago, which is hard for me to believe. And we are a all volunteer-driven global network of CDR advocates, makers, and educators. And we work to advance and accelerate the rate of carbon dioxide removal progress and growth. One thing that Ming Ren will throw into the chat is if a lot of the stuff that we do, our community kind of convenes, is on a Discord server, kind of like a Slack. People come in there, meet, and when they're working on projects, they talk to each other there and meet up on various Zooms and Gmeets throughout the week to get our work done. Now, more specifically on what OpenAir focuses on, and you can click on the link to our website, which we're actually redoing for the new year, but some good information on there for the time being. There's 4 different areas, or we call domains, of activity that OpenAir members primarily engage in terms of advancing CDR. In order here, advocacy is one. Our members are very active in policy activism for carbon dioxide removal, particularly at the state and municipal level, but also the national level. So a lot of legislation here in the United States on the state level that concerns carbon removal, most of that is actually originated from OpenAir membership. We also have an amazing community. This is related to today's discussion under what we call research and development, or R&D, and citizen science. So these are when our members come together to make things and hack things that are related to carbon dioxide removal. Very exciting missions related to that. What you're watching right now is probably the primary example of our education programming, this weekly webinar, but we hold a whole bunch of different webinars, either as series or as one-offs about different facets of carbon dioxide removal. We're starting to ramp up our blog again. We've produced a lot of materials just meant to increase understanding of carbon removal for a variety of different types of learners. And then the last is enterprise, and this is where members come together to actually help either support existing CDR businesses or actually advance novel business models related to carbon dioxide removal. So just to give you a couple of examples to illustrate, these are just a few of many just to show you. For instance, on the advocacy front, this coming year in 2025, we're right now working on a biochar support bill in New York State. This is one of several different state level policy initiatives where our members come together, come up with the policy ideas, try to get it sponsored in the legislature, and then organize coalitions to make these law. So you can keep an eye on that. An example of our R&D project, you're going to hear about an amazing one today, which is sort of a combo between education and R&D. But one of our really exciting projects is called Epiphyte, and this is a miniature direct air capture machine that our members designed, first built a version of at University of Pennsylvania last year. And right now, starting this Thursday, we're building the latest iteration of it here in Austin, where I'm based, with an amazing group of about 30 engineering students at UT. Totally open source. So once we publish that, anybody can build it anywhere in the world. Good example of education in addition to this is CDR, is CDR AI. This is a large language model, or LLM, like ChatGPT, that a core of our members located all over the world developed, launched it early this summer. And it's basically a ChatGPT just for CDR, that the data is only peer-reviewed articles and government studies. And so it's great for anybody, whether they're new to the subject or they want to do a deeper dive, they can go to CDR AI. The link will be dropped. And we continue to add more and more data to that. So definitely check that out. And last, and you'll be hearing from these guys probably in the beginning of January here on This is CDR. An example of enterprise is the first enterprise project that OpenAir really supported, the Naka Valley Biochar project. This is now a self-sustaining biochar production enterprise that was started by refugees in Africa's oldest refugee settlement, Naka Valley in Uganda. OpenAir members crowdfunded the initial kilns. Many of them provided all variety of support. And after a 2-year journey, this is now sustaining itself. And it's a highly replicable model throughout rural Africa and other parts, other rural areas. All right. So with that, on to the fun part. I'm so thrilled about this one. This is a project that I'm always in awe of. And I think in some ways it's kind of the essence of what OpenAir is all about. And that's the Carbon Removal Challenge that was first conceived and kicked off by my OpenAir co-founder, Matt Parker, and longtime members, Duncan McDowall and Sue Dorward, who's an amazing CDR advocate in her own right, are core members of that team, along with other folks who you'll hear about. And this is just an amazing annual education initiative globally for university students that you're going to hear all about today. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and introduce Sue, Duncan, and Matt. If you guys can see me now, let me come back up here. Let me bring them up on stage so you can look at their faces. Duncan's not on video yet, but I'm sure he will be in a minute. So here we go. Great. So I'll just go ahead and start in order here. So Sue joined the Carbon Removal Challenge this year as the co-lead, and she has a Master's of Science in Carbon Management from Columbia, and she's the founder of Carbon Manager LLC, where she's consulting on low carbon concrete, carbon storage, decarbonization, and carbon removal projects. She was also the quarterback and lead for what was OpenAir's most successful state legislative campaign in New Jersey for LEPA. So awesome to see her, Sue.
Thanks.
Duncan McDowell, also been around in the OpenAir Discord for a long time, one of the real OGs, is an award-winning filmmaker. Duncan, definitely throw your link if you have your portfolio anywhere. People should see your work. He's an award-winning filmmaker with over 20 years of experience. In 2022, he co-founded Possible Studio for Climate Communications, and he's based in Montreal. And then Matt Parker, the lunatic who joined me many years ago to start OpenAir. He's one of the co-founders of the OpenAir Collective, and he's the founding chair of the Carbon Removal Challenge, and he's a professor at the NYU Game Center based here in New York. All right. So with that, let's go ahead and hear from the team. Sue, I think we'll share your slides first, I believe, right?
Okay.
All right.
So welcome, everybody. I'm excited to be here, and I hope that you're eager to learn about how students are getting involved through this program, and you can help spread the word and get more involvement going moving forward. So as Chris mentioned, I just started with the Carbon Removal Challenge this year. I was on the policy side, and I went to the Carbon Unbound conference this year and saw the Carbon Removal Challenge showcase where all of the finalist teams presented, and it was really exciting. And at the end of it, Matt and I were talking. He's like, "Hey, do you want to get involved?" So here I am, and jumping in the deep end, getting involved with partners and sponsors and so on. But let me give you some background, and then we're going to hand off to Duncan to show a video he made of the Carbon Unbound, and then Matt will get into some of the details of how the challenge operates. Okay, so this is a not-for-profit event, and it's run by volunteers from the OpenAir. We have a small group of 5 of us right now. If you're interested in contributing, definitely reach out. And it's an event for students, undergraduate and graduate level from around the world, to work on carbon removal projects. So they design and build solutions that do carbon removal. That can be removing carbon from the air, from the ocean, from the geosphere. And as part of this, we have optional monthly webinars where they can meet each other, meet experts in the field, and be inspired and learn about other solutions that are out there. And then in the spring, we have, when they submit their solutions in March, we have judges who determine who the finalists are. And then for the past 2 years, we've been able to fly 5 teams of finalists to New York City. And this past year, it was in conjunction with the Carbon Unbound East Coast Conference in Manhattan. And that was very exciting and a great way for the students to see what's going on in the carbon removal space. And you'll see that in the video, how excited they got about being able to attend that event. So we're looking to do that again this year. We're finalizing our arrangements with Carbon Unbound. So we have several goals for the challenge. The first and foremost is really to get students to learn about carbon removal and to introduce them to what the technologies are, what the issues are. We want to highlight the work that's already happening in higher ed in carbon removal, and try to accelerate that and support that. They, of course, are having a hands-on opportunity to build something and innovate, which is exciting, and all part of the educational process, right? So we're enhancing that. Promoting innovation and enabling them to build on the success of earlier submissions. We've had a couple of teams that have submitted projects to both of the past 2 years. So they're continuing to work on these projects from year to year, which is exciting to see that it adds that kind of longevity. And then, as I mentioned, we're facilitating a lot of networking, both online in the optional webinars about once a month, and then also the finalists coming to the Carbon Unbound conference and doing a lot of networking there. So the impact that we're seeing, or that we're hoping to have, is to support innovation of new solutions, which, as we all know, we need 1,000 shots on goal, a lot of creativity to try to address this very difficult problem. And we're encouraging leadership among this new generation and giving insights to the students and connections with respect to carbon removal, trying to expand that funnel and act as a feeder to the carbon removal industry. All right, so now I'm going to hand over to Duncan, who's going to talk about the video that he made, and we're going to show that.
Sounds good. Hey, Duncan, set this up for us here.
Okay, great. Thanks, Sue. We're super glad to have you on board. So the video was super important to us for 3 reasons. We wanted to, A, capture the enterprising spirit of the student participants. Their drive and their energy was a story in and of itself. Second goal was to capture the excitement of being at the Carbon Unbound East Coast Leadership Summit. That's a huge part of it. The event itself and the showcase is something with palpable energy and dynamism, and there's a great story there. And the third, possibly most important goal of making this video is to help the good work of the student participants radiate throughout the world. I mean, we're all in it for planetary good, but we want also, this is not at all to achieve fame and fortune, but just to help show the amazing work and ingenuity of all the student participants. I hope it's an engaging watch. I tried to capture all of those three things, and yeah, Chris, if you set it up, we'll see how
I'll
it
do
goes.
it right now. Yep, sounds good. So let me go ahead and go full screen on that. I'll take us off.
So it's so important to get out into the market and share what you're doing, launch what you're doing.
Really trying to think through how you differentiate, what is the specific novel question that you try to answer in that field.
The most common failure by far is to go in the direction of working in a hole on the perfect technology, and then it never sees the light of day and it never really gets funding, and it kind of just shrivels and dies, and no one is really even aware of it.
There is a face, I think, of this invisible gas and this highly abstract process for removing something you never could see in the first place. And that is literally the faces of the founders of the new wave of technology.
To put your mind to it, you all have very smart minds, so put it on paper.
Hello everyone, I'm Jolan, otherwise known as Professor Red. This is Charlotte, and this is Eternal Air.
Hey guys, Alex here from the calcium oxide looping team, or LIMEX.
To reduce the concentration of CO2 at the outlet and in turn capture the most amount of CO2.
Once saturated, the three-way valve is actuated again to block off the air source from the column.
And then a pump that is used to pump the carbon dioxide enriched air out.
The best thing about Carbon Unbound Conference is just being around so many different people, so many diverse backgrounds, diverse roles within carbon removal, something you just don't get to see as an undergraduate uni student, and getting exposure to that at such young ages is fantastic.
Does Eternal Air want to come on and see what it's like up here and try running through their slides? Unless there are further questions. Seeing none? Okay, let's just jump into it. So we're not going to do the full presentation. This is just a chance for you to come up and see what your deck looks like on stage. So there's your clicker.
To the main forum area, take your seats, and we'll be starting in about 10 minutes.
Unique opportunity for the teams to actually attend this conference and be able to rub elbows with some of the leaders in the carbon removal space and really create opportunities for them. A big part of the
My mind was absolutely blown by the creativity and the output of these teams, and it just has made me realize that the Carbon Removal Challenge is at the very beginning, and it's going to be a really, really significant part of what we do at OpenAir.
Really amazing seeing how much this competition can inspire people from around the world to take part and sit and really give their best to trying to make the world a better place and deal with these problems that we're facing as a globe.
You guys are the future of the industry, so we're really excited to see what you're building, and also just building this incredible challenge. We support it wholeheartedly, and it's really important just to push innovation forward in such interesting industry. So, yeah, congratulations to everyone.
Carbon Removal Challenge is one, what we call the missions within OpenAir. That's any kind of defined project that any of our members are working on. And the Carbon Removal Challenge is one of those. But I will say, in some ways, it's maybe the most purely emblematic of the whole concept of OpenAir, is that you put out, here's an opportunity, here's a challenge. All of our missions are in some shape or form a challenge. Who's going to show up and do amazing things? And that is really the distillation, I think, with the Carbon Removal Challenges with university students.
Hello, we are the Green Technology Club from Western University, London, Ontario, Canada.
All right, we are Limax, and I'm super excited to tell you about calcium oxide moving because it is disruptive, it is simple, and it is scalable.
For this reason, we would like to propose Eternal Air as a noble solvent tester and invite anyone who is interested to come and talk to us.
We feed it into an algae reactor along with nutrients to create a vitamin-rich algae product, which is very efficient as a food supplement, as well as
being a part of Carbon Unbound meant that I got to meet so many key players in the industry that I did not know existed, so many registries, so many people in policy.
What we want to do next is create this one here that has all the relevant electrodes and membranes that work to make it selective for ethylene.
I was able to network with some of the most important figures in the CDR industry, as well as business leaders, such as Meta, for example. These will create really important connections for the near future if I want to stay in the CDR scene.
I think what I got out of the conference was just the dialogue with people. The ideas that were shared around were fantastic. It's entirely surreal. The chance for someone like me, an undergraduate student, to have this opportunity to network with the new up-and-coming as well as big team players in the carbon removal industry is absolutely astonishing.
Yeah, New York just doesn't stop. So much going on, but yeah, it's been really good. I'm gonna tell my family about Carbon Unbound that it was the best part of my university experience.
New York is amazing, OpenAir Collective is amazing, Carbon Unbound is amazing.
We're really grateful for our sponsors who are funding the future: Peter and Erica Reinhardt, Carbon Unbound, X Prize. We're really grateful for Activate, Carbon Upcycling, and NYU Alliance for Public Interest Technology, NYU Tisch, Mitsubishi Corporation of America. We think every year we're going to keep getting a little bit better, and we're really excited about the new developments that we have coming this year. We've got new sponsors, new partners, and exciting new opportunities for the teams who are going to be participating.
Oh,
sorry about that. Rookie mistake.
Okay. Yeah.
Duncan, just to kind of cap that off, first of all, just huge congratulations on creating such a treasure that I think really does capture what this is about. I want to just emphasize to people that we volunteer when we do these things, and we just get people with extraordinary abilities like Duncan to add so much value. But anything you want to say, Duncan, just to kind of put a sort of a final kind of note on that video? And I've asked people to share it here in the chat, but yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. It was a total pleasure working on this. I'm in it for the story. Possible students in it for the story, and the stories of young minds coming to the cause of planetary good, climate action, climate solution is just laden with drama. It's laden with excitement. It's just amazing working with those people and hearing how they've come about participating in the challenge, the process of going through the challenge, and then the excitement of coming to New York and presenting in front of a panel of investors and change makers is great. So honestly, the video kind of made itself. I was just there with the camera and the mic. But what I do want to tell people is please do share it as far as wide as possible. I think it's important. This challenge is very, very important for very many reasons. And this video is one of the things that helps get the word out there. So yeah, feel free to share it, and always open to answer any questions over DM, if any, or in the question and answer period later on. So that's it from me.
Well, you just got a nice little shout out, I'll say, from Vita. Thank you, Vita, for the nice words there. So, all right, I'm going to bring up Matt, who is my partner in crime and great buddy here at OpenAir. Hey, bud, how you doing? Oh, you're on mute, I think. There you go.
How you doing, Chris?
I'm doing good. I'm good. All right. So you're going to kind of get now into some more of the kind of the logistics and the brass tacks about how it works and what's next. Is that right?
That's correct.
All right. So I'm adding that to the stage, and I am getting off the stage.
Thank you, Chris. So yeah, this will be our third year of the Carbon Removal Challenge. Our first one was in 2023, 2024. We're kicking off the 2025 Carbon Removal Challenge. Right now, we've had 67 teams from every major continent except South America. So if anyone from South America is watching, we would love to check that one off of our list. We've had 167 students from 27 countries, and our finalists have come from as far away as Japan, India, Australia, Canada, less far away, so some US teams. But we really wanted this to be something that was truly international, people coming from all around the world, and really getting those people from different regions to connect with each other and sort of get inspired by each other and be able to work together. So just a basic timeline. We've launched the challenge. What you're watching in this video is part of our launch process. We're going to have more webinars throughout the process. But the signups for, if you want to be a team that participates in the Carbon Removal Challenge for 2025, January 15th is your last day to be sure that you can participate in the challenge. Everyone who signs up by January 15th is assured a spot in the Carbon Removal Challenge. You can still sign up after that, but we can't promise you that you'll actually get a slot. So really try and get those entries in before January 15th. Then you will work on your projects and proposals, and you will submit your proposals by March 2025. We'll give the date on that in a little bit, but essentially what you're submitting is sort of an overview of your project, relevant media, 10-page white paper PDF, and letter of support from someone from your academic institution, like a staff or faculty or researcher who sort of supports your conclusions in your submission. Then judging occurs in March, and finalists are identified in late March, early April. And then finalist teams are flown to New York to present their solutions in May of 2025, which we've done the previous 2 years. So the judging rubric, it really is hard to be too specific because we do want projects of all kinds. We don't want just direct air carbon capture projects or ocean CDR or biochar. We want every different kind of approach for carbon removal, whether it's what people call natural solutions or engineered technological solutions, even legislative solutions. So, but we do want things that are of high quality, creative and novel, and sort of new, interesting approaches. We don't want people just sort of duplicating the top approaches that are out there already. And then we want it to have large potential. And so anything that hits high on all three of those marks is going to do really well. But if something just really is crazy good on one of those marks and less good on the other two, they still have a chance of being a finalist. Just to give a little recap of the past 2 years, we've had 5 teams for up to 4 members per team that we've provided travel stipends to, hotel and honorariums for New York. They presented at special climate events in New York as part of the Carbon Removal Challenge Showcase. The first year was at NYU's 2040 Now Carbon Climate Initiative, which I am a professor at NYU. And then last year was at Carbon Unbound, as you saw in the video. They get to get introduced to leaders and mentors in the climate space, specifically in the carbon removal space. And final presentations are in person and streamed online for a wider audience to see their work and for them to be able to share that broadly to help them further in their careers in carbon removal and help those projects themselves go further. So we would like to thank our sponsors and partners from this year: Carbon Upcycling, Direct Air Capture Coalition, Carbon Business Council, Climate Draft, XPRIZE, Activate, Global CO2 Initiative at Michigan State, Possible Studios, Air Miners, Frontier, Brink, and Carbon Unbound. I will say that we are actively looking for more partners and sponsors, specifically sponsors. The more sponsorship we get, the more we can help our teams get to New York and provide them with all the resources they need to really get the most out of this experience. And I will say that the Carbon Removal Challenge, we have almost no administrative fees. Basically, every dollar that comes in goes directly to supporting the challenge. So if you're interested in sponsoring the challenge, if you're interested in being a judge, if you're interested in partnering and helping us get the word out, or if you're interested in preparing, please check out the Carbon Removal Challenge page on the OpenAir website. We'd love to have you there, and we have various different ways that you can contact us to ask questions and get involved in the challenge. So regardless of what you're interested, also if you're interested in helping us organize, if you want to join our organization and join the Carbon Removal Challenge organizing team, we would love to have more people assist with that. So that is where we're at, and I appreciate you listening to our presentation.
All right. Let me remove those. I'm going to bring up the other members of the team here. I'm going to bring up for a second Ming Ren as well, whose video looks like it's frozen. But I do want to give a big shout out to Ming Ren, who volunteered last year. He's been dropping links here, and he's just awesome. He just kind of fills the gaps whenever we need him. So really appreciate it, Ming Ren.
Thank you so much, Chris.
Key part of the team. All right, cool. We do have some good questions that are coming in here, clearly from students. So I want to make sure we get to those. But to go ahead and start, I think it's really useful to know about, these things don't fall out of the sky fully built and happen by themselves. They're made by people, and in this case, by volunteers and people who are incredibly passionate. What you've been able to do over the last 2 years, just on a shoestring and through sheer creativity and connections, has been, incredibly inspiring. So why don't we start with that, Matt? If you could just tell us about what sort of led you to the CRC. Again, you're a game designer by background and a moonlighting as a CDR proponent. So tell us a little bit about the origin of it, and then we'll hear from Duncan and Sue about what brought them into the mix.
Yeah, I mean, the origin of it is some way similar to the origin of, us joining up to start OpenAir, where you look around and you see what the problems are in the world, and you decide, what can I use? What skills do I have that can apply to this? And game design is not something that seems to naturally connect to climate change and sort of solving, advancing carbon removal. But one thing I can do is design a large competition, kind of like making a game, and then have students have their different ideas come in and try and figure out a way to encourage them through rewards and incentives and structure to have them participate and make new things. And one of the things that really inspired us, one of our advisors was the founder of the American Solar Car Challenge. And we really looked at all the different solar challenges that happened starting in the early 1990s. And you see that sort of exponential growth that you've had with solar technology, and that's sort of the golden technology for climate change and that everyone's chasing. And we really thought that the sort of secret sauce of solar was getting young people interested in it early, that the people who in the 90s who were students in college, those are now the people who are the chief engineers and CEOs and investors for solar now, that have over the years led it to be as successful as it is. So if we're going to get carbon removal to that gigaton level by mid-century that the UN and IPCC and a million other scientists say we need to get it to, what we need now is to get the young people now excited about it so that they can pave the path forward over the next 30 years. So that was really the inspiration for the Carbon Removal Challenge, is how do we get more young people excited about working in carbon removal and sort of support them going forward to get as much human capital on this problem as possible.
Excellent. And just to hear from the rest of the team, kind of go in chronological order. Duncan, you've been there since the beginning. What brought somebody with your background and interest to play such a critical role in the challenge?
Yeah, for me it was I mean, the funnel of conversion is that obviously I was interested in climate good, and that led me to the OpenAir Carbon Removal Collective. And within the Carbon Removal Collective, there's just a variety of places that we can go to effectuate good. But what suited me about the challenge was that there was a live component to it. It was almost immersive because it's happening. Obviously, there's a lead up to the challenge, and there's the webinars and all that. But the idea that these teams of students are spread out all over the world designing their unique solution, and then they come together in a room, and there's this element of cross-pollination, and there's a palpable sense of excitement. And in the end, I love that. I mean, what truly motivates me is tomorrow's air. I mean, what I mean that is the air of the future is actually reducing atmospheric carbon and cleaning that up. And it's the Carbon Removal Challenge is just so important towards contributing to that. So it's been terrific. This is the third year doing it, and I truly look forward to many more years being involved with this.
Excellent. We do too. And Sue, the latest comer, but jumped right in.
Yeah. Well, so I'll give you the origin story for me for getting involved. Was I was at the Direct Air Capture conference last year, which was held at Columbia, where I was a student, and one of my professors was talking to a student who had come a long way to come to the conference and to talk to him about his direct air capture innovation. And the professor was so impressed. He was like, "Oh, you should, make sure you get it patented." And then Matt happened to hook this student and encourage him to participate in the challenge. And it turns out that he did apply, and his team was a finalist and came to Carbon Unbound. And I just was going to Carbon Unbound anyway and was excited to see him. And so I sat through all of their showcase and was so impressed. And there was so much energy, so many good ideas and novel approaches. And just to see the impact of the program, the excitement it generated, the passion the students had for creating these solutions and supporting each other, it was just really inspiring. And then they had this chance to network with everyone and see that there's a community out there and there's industry out there, startups out there that they can work with after graduation. It was just just one of the most inspiring things I've experienced. So when Matt said, do you want to get involved? I jumped at the chance.
And I was so pleased to hear that, because you and I, Sue, have known each other for a long time now, and just your own history within OpenAir, you get things done. So I was like, well, that's quite an acquisition. So very happy you're involved. So we do have some questions. I have some prepared questions. I'm going to ask one now, but then I would like to get to some of the questions that are popping up here. But the first one is I guess you kind of just answered it in different threads that came up. But what sort of makes for a successful challenge? I know that's a broad question, but how do you guys kind of look at it? Like, okay, this is really sort of a highlight, and we know we've had an impact. And maybe I'll start with you again, Matt.
Yeah, I mean, so part of it is that we get together a panel of top judges who are from different parts of the carbon removal industry. They're academics, they're people at startups, they're people who are investors, and we have them look at these things, and we said, like, what they are looking for is basically what the industry needs, right? So we really try to select the best judges that we think are going to be the ones who would notice what gaps are being filled. And so one of the things that we did last year, and we're hoping to continue this year, is there is a carbon removal gaps database that has been put out there by Frontier. That's basically, these are the things that carbon removal knowledge gaps, that's been put out there by Frontier. And they're like, these are the things that we don't have the answers for. We don't know how to solve these things, and they're really important for us to get to the next steps in carbon removal. So we really value that when somebody has one that is a good response to one of those knowledge gaps and says, hey, this thing that's in this database of all these problems with carbon removal, these things that are, causing us to not be sure that we're going to reach that level we need to reach by mid-century. That's the things that we look at. And the solutions they're looking at there are range from, the specific chemistry for this direct air carbon capture machine to how do we get more people from this area involved in this? How do we get more government support for this? So we really value that highly, and we think that there have been experts who have put together these questions, and we want our students to be the ones who come in and give those answers.
That's a great question. Anybody have anything else to add to that in terms of what they're looking for? Is that it's a pretty complete answer?
Right.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is just a question from Juho, which is similar to one that I was going to ask, is just about like what happens after the challenge. So Juho asked, is there sort of a process around taking projects maybe to a next level, and if the CRC is involved in that, and maybe you could sort of tie to that some examples of what you actually have seen over the last 2 years, what some of the participants are now doing with their projects or project ideas.
So I don't know.
Whoever knows it, whoever has the answer.
Yeah, so we do follow up with our teams afterwards. A big part of it is that, at the showcase, we try to introduce them to potential mentors and supporters for the future. Some of them are still undergrads, they're not like necessarily graduating, so they're iterating on them while they're still in school. Some of them have gone on to be commercial successes, or the startups that are attempting to be commercial successes. You have to keep in mind it's only been 2 years since our first challenge, less than a year. It's been 1.5 years since our first showcase. So that's not a ton of time for these teams to advance, but we have seen some advances. The team out of Mumbai has a startup now that, what was the name again? Was receiving
Urja C, I think it's called.
Yeah. We are also not to bury the lead on this or spoil an upcoming webinar, but we have a webinar coming up. I think our next webinar in December is going to be with finalists from the previous 2 years, where they're going to talk about what their experience was with the Carbon Removal Challenge and what their experience has been since then. So if you're really interested in that you should definitely tune into that webinar, because you can ask the horse's mouth what their experience was post challenge.
Great. Yeah, I again was lucky enough to be the MC last year, and just it was really one of the highlights of my year, I would say. And I was one of the things that really stood out is how mature some of these ideas really were, that I could see a commercial future for multiple ones of them. So Ilnaz asks a very specific scope question here. Should our ideas be focused just on CDR, carbon dioxide removal, or can they also include solutions for point source emissions?
So we really favor CDR, I'll be honest, but we have had point source submissions before that we have considered. This is the carbon removal challenge, not the carbon capture challenge, but we will consider point source submissions, but I will say that our preference is leaning towards carbon removal solutions.
Gotcha. And there is overlap. Some solutions might in fact do both, but exactly. Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, so just a few other ones. Supriya, we are going to, you had asked about that company. Me and Mingren will find it for you while we're looking and drop a link. Their website is pretty bare minimum at this point, but at least you can bookmark that.
The LinkedIn is what this on them, right?
Okay, great. If anybody has that on hand. Okay, great. Okay, so we have a question here about from Abdul. When you register to participate, that means you will come up with a team of how many members? So I guess that's when you register, how far along do you have to be? Do you have to have a team assembled?
So you don't have to have a team fully assembled by then. You just need to have one interested party. Teams can be as small as one person. They have been as large as 7 or 8. We can only, in the past, we've only been able to provide funding for 4 members of each team, up to 4 members of each team to come to New York. So you don't have to have 4 members. You can have fewer than 4 members. You can have more than 4 members, but that's, given our budgetary constraints, that's what we've been able to do in the past. Depending on what happens with our sponsorship this year, that number may be higher or lower, and the number of teams may be higher or lower, but we're really working to make sure that we can at least hit the levels of sponsorship that we've had and number of teams that we've had coming in again this year.
Okay, great. And Sue did just drop, the company is called Orginova C, and the LinkedIn link is there. Thanks, Sue. I have been dropping some other links too, like that Frontier Gaps database. You can see a link in the chat for that as well. This is an idea that I know the answer to, but you can elaborate on it a bit. And this is Sadia asks, will winners' ideas be supported for implementation? So maybe you could talk a little bit about it. The challenge itself is kind of an implementation because there's a demo that comes with it, but go ahead and answer that.
Sue, do you want to do this one or no? You want me to do this one?
No, go for it.
Yeah, so the winners, usually we have had people submitted things that were more theoretical and not actually implemented, but we also have had people who submitted like running prototypes that have run at the challenge. So we have been able to demo those at the showcase itself, at the final showcase, so that the people who've come live can actually see those projects running live at the showcase. So I think that's really useful when teams can do that, to actually show the people who are attending the showcase how this works and sort of point to the technical details and get technical feedback on that. But it is not a requirement that there be a constructed thing. For example, like I said before, you know, we are open to like legislative solutions, and you can't like, I mean, you can come with a bill, I guess, like a printout of it.
Do that, Matt. We should do a CDR challenge policy component.
We have them. We just we need to get the submissions, and we actually had a couple. Last year. One of them was pretty good last year. There was one that was just outside of the honorable mentions last year. So there are some good policy suggestions that are coming in, but we haven't had one quite crack the finalist level yet.
Okay, I want to be involved in that now that I know about it. That missed my attention, so that's fantastic. Great. Ilnaz asks another really good question. I do want to sort of prioritize these specific questions that are clearly coming from student teams. So Ilnaz, another good question. Can our supervisors be part of the teams, or does it need to be exclusively a student team? And maybe what is the role of a supervisor? I guess you can maybe add to that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of a fine line, but I think as long as the students are ones doing a lot of the work on it, you know, there's a lot of grad students and grad programs where, you know, the grad students are, the professor has some sort of crazy idea, and then their advisees are the ones who like do the implementation of that idea and really get the thing going. So yeah, the advisor can be part of the team, but it's not required to be. And I would say for the majority of our teams, it's a team that decides that they want to make something, and then they approach a faculty or staff or researcher from the school to just sort of be their supporter and write that letter of support, just saying that I've reviewed their findings and I'm signing off that this is a real thing that they made that works this way. But it's certainly an option to have the advisor be more integrated into the team than that.
Okay, excellent. And Supriya has another really good question here, which is one that I was actually going to ask next. What are we seeing in terms of over the last 2 years? If you had a kind of a pie chart, you could sort of sketch out for us, like what are the kinds of CDR that most projects are focusing on, or at least what's the spectrum that you've seen so far over the last 2 years?
You know, we actually have a pie chart from the first year somewhere. I'm going to see if I can locate it real quick to share. We didn't do one last year, but give me a second to see if I can find that. But I would say that we have primarily seen DAC submissions to this point. So direct air carbon capture machine have been the most. I think we haven't seen as much like biochar. We've seen some ocean CDR ones, but I don't think any of them. We've seen some algae, a few algae, like biomass type projects. Sorry, I'm trying to go off the top of my head here on this stuff. Duncan, so do you have any other?
Yeah, there's been zero enhanced rock weathering. I don't think either first or second year. So open to entries there. I mean, open to entries for all forms of CDR. But if you're innovating in that capacity, then by all means send it in. And also very open to policy and even communication stuff, but it's I would say mostly DAC.
Yeah. Which doesn't really surprise us in a way, right? That has a lot of sizzle to it. You know, that a lot of people sort of weigh into carbon removals through DAC. That was certainly the case for me once upon a time. So, but it would be interesting to see. We're pretty tech agnostic here at OpenAir, and you know, we'll take all. I just had two one idea, if the policy stuff does come through, it's occurring to me that when we're doing the carbon removal challenge is right near the end of the legislative session in New York, and we have some bills that are going to be introduced in New York. It would be interesting to see if we could tag on like a lobbying day if any policy students come and they want to see what it's like to actually go to a Capitol and talk to people. So we could do that.
Christine, I just put up the graphic for the
oh yeah, sure.
Challenge. So this has that little pie chart at the bottom there, big pie chart at the bottom that shows sort of the breakdown of the first year. So primarily DAC, but some regenerative agriculture. We did have some CCS and CU. Algae farming was probably the second biggest one, and then there's like sorbent development, ocean CDR, direct air open capture, other things that sort of fell into this other piece of the pie there. So yeah, we had a variety of things, but yeah, we'd love to have a larger variety of things in the future.
Sorry, pardon my dog there. He's excited. So I'm wondering too, like we've seen the evolution of the challenge from year 1 to year 2. The venue, the partners, the awesome videography, the judging process. Are there any other kind of additional programmatic elements that you're at least contemplating for this year? And if not, that's okay, because the formula works as is, but didn't know if there's anything that that's sort of new that you're thinking about that would enhance the experience for participants.
I think one thing that sorry, you had something, Duncan?
No, go ahead.
One thing we added last year that I think really helped was that we did a sort of pitch presentation practice before the carbon removal challenge. So that's not something that the public sees, but we really had the teams present their pitches to organizers beforehand, and then we sort of talked them through like what makes a good pitch in this setting, how do you talk to clients, larger fields of people, judge their technical level, what a good presentation is, and sort of train them a little bit on what makes for an effective presentation in this setting. And I think that's something that is really important as you go from being in a university to being out in the world, is how do you talk about your work and express it and share it in a way that's going to get people excited about it. And that's something I think that we are thinking about ways of doing more of this year.
All right, great. We have a couple of new questions just popped up, and I have a couple more to close this out as well. But just from Juho again, how do you do outreach to universities to increase awareness about the challenge? You're right, Juho, it is a huge task. But yeah, how do we do that, Matt? And other two?
Well, so this year, I think I came in handy in that respect. I just posted to, there's a sustainability and higher education organization called ASHE, and I posted to their online community. So hopefully that'll get the word out to a bunch of folks. And then I'm in New Jersey. There's also a higher ed for sustainability group there that I've posted to. But yeah, a lot of it is social media and outreach through our partners and sponsors to their networks. So we can always use more help with that to try to get the word out.
And that's what OpenAir is really all about. So Juho, if you think this is cool, fire at will. Share with whoever it is that you think might be of interest to it, wherever you may be. We have some time here, but I think we had a pretty healthy response at launch too, right, Matt? I think you were pleased by the
well, with the first year we did a lot of like pre-seeding. So OpenAir has university connections from before the challenge. So we did the thing where before we even launched, we reached out to a bunch of universities we already had connections with and said like, hey, we're going to do this thing. Will you participate in advance? So that way, when we launched, we weren't saying like, hey, no one's ever done anything with this. We were able to launch and say like, we've got, I think it was 10 or a dozen teams already committed to doing this. Do you want to be the next one? And then that sort of helped, it's the whole social media thing. It's like, you don't want to start with a ghost town. You want to make sure that there's some sort of active population there before you start. And then last year, my co-chair did a lot of like cold calling. Like you like, honestly, that's a big part of it. You like look up universities that have departments that seem related, student organizations, things like that. And you just sort of drop them a line and say, would you be interested in participating? You get the number of people from that. And then our partners and sponsors and our greater network really help spread the word and social media, like Sue said. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's great. So Ilnaz has another process eligibility question just about the level of, I guess, TRL or technology readiness level. Does it have to be proven at lab scale or require experimental evidence to show it could work, or can it simply be a kind of conceptual proposal?
It can be any of those things. Obviously, the further along it is, the more impressive it's going to be on that feasibility factor that we look at. But if it's purely conceptual, it's better be a pretty good concept. We're certainly not looking for things that like already have lab scale, already proven outside of a laboratory environment. We understand that these are student projects, we're not looking for startups. We're really looking to be, there's a lot of things in carbon removal that are, hey, once you've raised this much money, or you've gotten this much support, or you can proven that you can remove this much CO2 from the atmosphere, then we will fund you, let you into our accelerator or incubator. And we're really trying to be the big end of the funnel. We're trying to say like, hey, are you thinking you might be interested in carbon removal? Get in here. We're going to try and help encourage you, give you some resources, get you along as far as we can. So help build up people who can get those lower ends of the funnel where they already are looking for funding. Because I do think that's a gap that we're looking to fill in the carbon removal landscape, is people not having an entry point, and we're really looking to be that entry point. So we'll take things that are very early stage.
Absolutely. And just two questions to finish up with here. First is, this is a competitive process, and it was actually from year one. There was a lot of great proposals that had to get turned down. But what is it that someone who this year might be really invested into this and submitted a proposal, are there other ways that they can participate or sort of help out, even if they're not among the finalists?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we'd love to have people join our team. There's a lot of work to be done, and many hands make light work. So if somebody wants to help organize, we would really love that. If people, know of other people or organizations that might be interested, spreading the word for us is always super helpful. And if you're not sure how you can help out and you really want to help out, then reach out to us and we will see if we can figure out something that you have that will change things dramatically and make it a significant impact for us.
Okay, so we do have another question here that I'm going to bump my other one because it is, Sadia says she has a last question, so if she wants to ask it. Maybe, I don't know if you just want to real quickly, guys, can you give an example of a team's project, like specifically, and their experience with the challenge? I know that's kind of maybe requires a long answer, but like to give people a real specific sense of what the experience is like for participants.
There was a team from Drake University the first year that made this sort of like half like algae growing box, half like art project. That was an idea that was like, it would raise awareness. It would let people know. It was to sort of remove algae blooms from lakes. But then you collect the algae and then you can use it for CDR purposes. And I thought that was really sort of the sort of thing that I was excited that made it as one of our finalists for the challenge, because it's not the sort of thing that would necessarily get featured in something else. It is something that is sort of small scale. It's not going to be something that changes the world, but it was very novel. And it was something that I think it was really well done. And I think it's the sort of thing that can really help people who don't understand the value or the possibilities or how carbon removal works sort of wrap their heads around it. So that was a real sort of outlier, I thought, from most of the presentations that we got. It's called Spark. Oh, can I remember what Spark stood for? Spirina. I can't remember.
Yeah, it was pretty clever. Gosh, I wish I could remember that as well. Check the website.
Yes.
And,
Mingren just dropped it again. What was this last one? Oh my God, there's good questions here though. What about international universities in countries like KSA? How can they? Yeah, anybody, anywhere.
We want as many international people as possible. We want, the further you are away, the better. That's not true. We don't like discriminate against closer countries. We love international groups, is all I'll say.
Yeah.
Right. And we try to give you enough time between the finalist announcement and the showcase to get, your visa approved and all of that.
Yeah.
And we're paying to fly you. So.
Yeah.
And that can be a challenge, getting those getting those visas in time. But that's one thing we actually learned from the first year to the second year, is that we needed to give more time in between announcing the finalists and the showcase, because there were some visa problems that first year, not less than we actually thought they were going to be, but it was pretty stressful for a while. But it mostly ended up working out.
Yeah. All right. Well, that brings us to time. I do have a minute just to tell people what we got coming on next week and the next couple of weeks, but I want to just really commend you guys for just the awesome project. I'm so excited to be in New York for it again. Folks, if you're interested in being a sponsor or being involved, please do get in touch through our website. If you're interested in making a small donation, every bit helps. This is all volunteer led. Somehow they pull this off as volunteers. So really, guys, huge kudos to you. Very, very exciting, and just really the essence of OpenAir, I think. So thanks, guys. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Chris.
All right. So for next week, if I can get this thing to move, is just to quickly give you a heads up. We are going to be hitting the holidays pretty soon, but we are going to go ahead and let me just, I'll leave you guys up there. In terms of what we got next week, we are going to be here because it's the early part of the week. We're really excited. CDR Jobs is such a cool platform that started, I think, over the summer. So many people are flooding this space, and they're like, I don't know, I do this. Can I find a place in CDR? And CDR Jobs answered the call for that. And not only is it a platform that lists hundreds of different jobs openings around the world for different disciplines from hundreds of different companies, it also does analysis on the kinds of jobs, payment, where the geography of where jobs are needed. So it's both sort of intelligence as well as posting. So Helen Lundebai, who's one of the co-founders of CDR Jobs, is going to be on to talk about the platform and then what they're learning about what the job market looks like for CDR. And then after that, coming up on the 3rd, we're going to have Fallow Labs, New York City-based company. This is building integrated direct air capture. So if you're interested in urban CDR or DAC, definitely check out this company. They're awesome. They actually have one of their systems in the Empire State Building, which is an amazing achievement. And then after that, we're going to have Legion 44, the director of that, Lila Connors. I've worked a bit on this project. This is the first theatrical documentary about carbon dioxide removal that debuted at Climate Week a month ago, or 2 months, or a little over a month ago in New York. It's just it tells the story of CDR innovators all over the world, what they're doing and why they're doing it. And it's a real cinematic triumph. So she will be on to talk about the film, show some segments from it, and where it's going to be showing and how activists and others can be involved in bringing it to a theater near them. And so with that, I will close up the stream, but want to thank everybody again for joining, and hopefully we'll see you next week. Thanks, everybody.